Hello everybody, this is Mr. Longo, and in this video we are going to write some equations from trig graphs. This is a very important skill when it comes to doing sinusoidal application problems. So make sure you pay very careful attention to this because this will be used in the application section. So when you're given an actual graph and you want to write the equation, there's a couple of different steps you can take, and the first step that you might want to take is to choose whether or not you want to write a sine or a cosine wave. So if we were looking at just the coordinates that were given here, there are 5 different options for you, and that's just what's given. If you wanted to extend this graph further to the right or further to the left, there's actually an infinite number of different cycles you can choose. And then once you decide you want to do sine or cosine, you would choose one cycle. Now you can reverse those steps. You can say, all right, I'm going to box this cycle, this is the one I'm going to use. Then you can determine if you're going to use sine or cosine. So really, these two steps are interchangeable based on what you want to do. Now, just to show you that you could choose sine or cosine, I'm going to do it with both, and then just teach you how to adjust it. Once you've decided on that, you should find the node and the amplitude. That's going to give you your A and D values. And then you should create your start and stop inequality and solve. That will give you your B and C value. So let's just do this together right now. The first thing I am going to suggest that you do, like I said, is either create a cycle or choose a trig function. I am going to start with a sine. I would like to do sine. So sine starts on the node line, and we can see that this is our node. So we could start here and get a positive sign because it goes up, or we can start here and do a negative sign. It really doesn't matter which one you want to do. So I am just going to show you a positive sign for now to keep the first example easy. So if we start here, we are going to stop here because that's one complete cycle. After that, the graph starts to repeat itself. So now we have our y is equal to something sine. So we've decided on sine, we've decided it's positive. Now we need to find our node and our amplitude. So for this example again, I kept it simple. Our node line is going right through the middle here, and that's at y equals 1. And our amplitude is 2 above, 2 below. So we can see the total height of this wave is 4. But we're just going to go with an amplitude of 2. Remember, amplitude is how far you are from the node to the crest and trough. So we have an amplitude of 2. So remember, amplitude is A, so we're going to put that over here. And your node line is D, so at the end of this equation is going to be a plus 1. Okay? Next, we are going to work with our inequality for our start and stop. So if you remember when we're graphing, we would set up something from 0 to 2 pi or 0 to 360, and then we would use the given B and C values to create whatever else we needed to graph. Now this time, we are going to choose our start as a negative pi, which is less than or equal to, and we have our x, which is less than or equal to our stop, which is 3 pi. But now your thinking for this needs to go in the opposite order. We need to get this back to 0 to 2 pi. So the first thing we need to do is make this become a 0. So we need to add pi to all 3 sections. That's going to give us 0 is less than or equal to x plus pi, which is less than or equal to 4 pi. Now we need to get this to become 2 pi. So let's go take a little flashback. Remember, our period is equal to 2 pi divided by b. Well, if we want to find b, remember this is just the little slide where we switch those two, because mathematically we would multiply both sides by b, then we would divide both sides by the period to get b by itself. So that means b is equal to 2 pi divided by the period. And in the graphing video, we learned that we're from 0 to 4 pi, that our period is 4 pi. So now we just need to say 2 pi divided by 4 pi is going to give us a b value of 1/2. So now our final start-stop is 0 is less than or equal to 1/2 of x plus pi is less than or equal to 2 pi. We just multiplied everything by 1/2 to get this 4 pi to become a 2 pi. And of course 1/2 times 0 is 0. So now we have this part of the equation, which is our b and c value. So we can just finish the equation right here. B is 1/2 times x plus pi, close our parentheses, and we're done. Now let's analyze that really quick. We have an amplitude of 2. We have a node line of +1. We are horizontally shifted pi to the left. That's how, remember, our horizontal shifts are opposite. And then, of course, our 2 pi divided by 1/2 would give us our 4 pi for our period. So if you wanted to write a cosine, you actually do not need to redo much of anything. The only thing you would have to do is decide where you want to start your cosine and modify two things: the positive or negative sine or cosine and your c value. So the period is not going to change. Your amplitude is not going to change. Your node or your vertical shift is not going to change. So let's just say you wanted to start down here. That would be a negative cosine. So this would be y is equal to a -2 cosine of 1/2 times x, leave a little bit of room, plus 1. Now you just have to think about where you have shifted. This is 2 pi to the left, so this would become plus 2 pi. You do not have to redo this if you are asked to write two of them. Honestly, you could also have started down here. That's still a negative cosine, but that would have been x minus 2 pi. And this would have stayed the same. You could start here and do a negative sign. So this would just be a -2 sign, and this would say x minus pi. So there's all sorts of different ways you could have done this with one complete cycle. Okay? Now I kept that example very simple because I gave you all of the necessary tick marks with all of the necessary information, just so I can show you what you need to do to accomplish writing a trig wave, whether it's sine or cosine. This one is a little bit a little bit tougher because I'm not giving you any tick marks, so you have to figure out what your node is mathematically and your amplitude mathematically. You can't just count the tick marks on this one. Same thing for your start and stop, depending on which side of the y-axis you're on. So I would like you to pause the video and write a sine or cosine wave, whatever one you want. You want to challenge yourself, write one of each. And then as soon as you're ready, click play and we'll see how it went. Alright, so since I told you to choose whatever you wanted, I'm going to just choose a positive cosine this time. I'm going to start here. Remember, we need a full cycle, so we're going to start there and we're going to stop there. So I've already decided I'm doing a y equals something positive cosine. I'm going to need a b value. I've got this, and then I'm going to need to have my other information as well. So let's talk about the node. Well, remember, amplitude and node kind of go together, so this is -4 up to 12. So that means the entire height of this sine or cosine wave, also known as a sinusoid, is a total of 16. So that means the amplitude is 8. So that means from here to here is 8. So that means our node line has to be 4. So this would be y equals 4. So now we have just discovered that our amplitude, or our A value, is 8, and our node line is 4 units up, or a vertical displacement up of 4. So there we go. Now, as I've mentioned, we have a start and a stop. We're at negative 16 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 24. Now, I'm going to add 16 to both sides. 0 is less than or equal to x plus 16, which is less than or equal to 40. Now remember, that's our period. So to find our b value, it's 360 divided by our period of 40, which is going to give us a b value of 9. So this is now 0 is less than or equal to 9 times x plus 16, which is less than or equal to 360. So now we are at our 0 to 360. So we have a b value of 9, and our c value is going to be right there with a 16. So again, that's what I selected. Now let's talk about some of the other options you could have had. If you would have started at the negative 6, that would have been y is equal to a negative 8 sine of 9 times x plus 6. And then still the plus 4. So look, the only thing that changed is what I chose to do, sine or cosine. So this would be a negative sign. So we switch that to negative sign. And our horizontal displacement is now 6 to the right, or 6 to the left, which is plus 6. Okay, other options would have been a y is equal to a negative 8 cosine of 9 times x minus 4 plus 4 if you wanted to start there. So again, it all depends on what you choose. That's the nice thing about sine and cosine waves when you're writing an equation. There are an infinite number of correct answers. When you look at 2 cycles, there's, really only a couple that you would want to select because you would like to see a full cycle. But really, it depends on what you want to do. All right, everyone. This is Longo, and I'm out. See you, bye.